Well, Palantir has been on a tear in 2023. I mean, all the geniuses were saying it's going to go back down like it did all last year were completely wrong. It has been basically a rocket ship up ever since. But I do have one big problem with Palantir that I have to share with you guys today. You know you're getting the truth, so make sure you like the video if you enjoy getting an honest take on Palantir stock. And I personally believe everybody can retire early and have financial freedom. So if you want total control of your life, I'll show you the very real alternative to getting to financial freedom or early retirement on my new channel, which will be the pinned comment down there. Make sure you guys check it out and subscribe over there. Okay, so the ride with Palantir, guys, has just been completely crazy if we're all honest. I mean, one, Alex has crazy hair. We all know that. Basically, a lot of the narratives and a lot of everything around Palantir has been just absolutely crazy. The bulls and the bears are absolutely crazy when it comes to Palantir. So there's essentially just kind of craziness all around, but it doesn't bother me one bit. And that's not where my problem is, because I'm a Tesla shareholder, guys. That right there is the very definition of absolutely ridiculous craziness in the market in regards to all. I guess Elon doesn't have crazy hair like Alex does. Although I did get hair transplants. He used to have no hair, now he's got hair. Anyways, totally irrelevant. The point being, the narratives and the stock price movements and the Wall Street narrative around it, the bulls and the bears and everything else with Tesla is just as wild, or actually more wild, than Palantir. Trust me, if you can survive the Tesla ride, there's no issues with surviving the Palantir ride either. So I'm not trying to go all the way there. But this one problem that I have with Palantir has burned investors over and over and over again. But don't worry, guys, there's a way to absolutely solve this problem as well, and we'll talk about that today too. So the big problem I have with Palantir that has basically plagued it since it DPO'd all the way up until today, and that is it goes on hype run after hype run, creating a ton of FOMO, and a bunch of folks get caught up in all the hype and just all the emotions around it and everything else, only to just see it crater right back down time and time again. It basically DPO'd, rocketed straight up almost to $40 per share, just to come all the way back down, then come back up a little bit, come back down, go on another hype run, rinse and repeat repeatedly since it DPO'd. And yeah, I understand that the trend line's down, but if you're paying attention to what was going on in between the trend lines, you would see intense runs up with tons of hype behind it, and then just to see it crater right back off again to make new lows. It's basically rinse and repeat in terms of these hype cycles. So with each one of those runs, like I just said, they're hype-based. They were hype-based runs where it ran up, kind of just continue to go up, and then would crater back down. But then we finally get something that's not a hype-induced run. Basically, they turn surprise profitability. That's great. That's exactly what you want to see. That is an actual true catalyst for a stock to move up. And it did go up, and then it cratered right back down again, which is usually the opposite of what happens. That's usually what happens when it's a hype run, not an actual catalyst, an actual event that pushes the stock up higher. But there it was right back down in the $7 range again after it turned profitability, or after they became profitable. You guys know what I'm saying there. English, not doing very well today with my English. But then AI kind of became all the rage, and it's rocketed right back up again, up around $20, and I started hearing the same exact narratives and seeing the same exact hype narratives again. I personally think fair value is right around where it is right now. You can make a case it's a little bit higher. If you wanted to argue it was 15 or maybe a little bit lower, or kind of more in a bearish type scenario, okay, I could definitely go with that too, because we really don't know what multiple long-term Wall Street's going to be willing to pay for Palantir and what all they're going to be able to do, the growth rates and everything else. Totally understand that there. But it's at levels to me where if we see another run here at the end of the year, which I know we got a lot of stocks already running 4 or 5% in a day, it seems like, especially in this high growth category that Palantir kind of falls into. If we see a run to the end of the year, like a lot of folks are predicting, nice little Santa Claus rally into the end of the year, there is no doubt in my mind that run is going to be a lot more hype than anything else. And of course, that's the big problem with Palantir right there. Because when it runs like this and it picks up steam, all the bulls are going to be out there telling you it's going to the moon next. That's the next stop there. Finally, we're going to the moon. And then a whole bunch of people FOMO into the stock, only to see it fall back down to reality once again. And there's a lot of bag holders left and kind of all the carnage after that. And for a long-term buy and hold investor like myself, that leaves me in a spot where I'm kind of looking at a stock and I know, hey, it runs up to, we'll just say $30, $35. At this stage right now, that's pretty darn overvalued in my opinion. So no matter how you look at this, you've got to solve the problem of hype runs in the first place. And there's basically 3 ways to do that. The first, and it may be the most, well, it's not the most important. All 3 of these are important. Anyways, point being, the first is to ignore all the noise, both good and bad, in regards to Palantir. I see this mistake all the time, especially with new investors. They essentially, if they're very, very optimistic type people, they hitch right onto the bulls and they get caught up into all these crazy narratives and all these crazy, 0.11% chance scenarios and or just utterly wrong scenarios altogether, all the way up. Or if they're kind of the more cautious type and they're not real sure about investing, they get caught up in a lot of the bear narratives, and those bear narratives really speak to them, and they end up in situations where they miss out on steal deals because it's got to go lower, right? I mean, it gets down to, $6, $7. Oh, it's got to go down to 5 or 4, maybe even 3. I mean, who knows? It could go bankrupt. You just don't ever know, despite the fact the financials said the exact opposite. Let's not let facts get in the way of a good bear narrative, right? But the reality is, especially with Palantir, both the bulls and the bears have been incredibly wrong over and over and over again. And more importantly, honestly, I'm not sure I've ever seen a stock flip the way it's flipped with this particular stock, where basically bulls turn into bears and then bears turn into bulls and kind of vice versa and back and forth. And somebody's all in, Palantir one week, and then all of a sudden one earnings calls comes out, Alex bangs the table, and all of a sudden they're all out. It's the worst stock ever. How could you ever own this company? I mean, it just utterly ridiculous on both sides. So you just have to completely ignore all of that stuff, all of that narrative, get it out of your head, and basically focus on the next 2 steps. So the second is to create a valuation and a buy price target. Look, guys, the only way I know of to avoid hype runs or to be able to identify when something is on a steal deal is to create a valuation and a price target. It's the only way. There's no other way to know otherwise. There's no chart, there's no graph that points out to that sort of stuff. Sure, it can tell you where support and resistance is and what the traders are doing, but as a long-term buy and hold investor, I'm not interested in buying Palantir at $35 because the chart says it might go to 45, because I'm not looking to sell it. I want to own it for the next 10 years. So yeah, that might very well be what the charts point to, but as a long-term buy and hold investor, valuation tells me it's coming back down. Now, that doesn't mean it can't go to 40 in the meantime, but that does me no good as a long-term buy and hold investor to buy at 35, have it go to 40. Great. I made a nice little gain in the stock, but since I'm not a trader, I'm not selling it. So I'm going to see it crater all the way down. And same exact thing whenever it's going down. You need to be able to identify those steal deal prices, which you can't do based upon the charts. The charts do not tell you valuation. That is where your actual plan and your due diligence and actually getting in there and doing an actual valuation on the stock actually pays off and actually creates a spot where you can create that price target to where hey, once it hits that target, I know it's at the price I want to buy at. I need to start buying the stock. Now, you're not going to time the bottom, and neither do the traders, neither do anybody else out there. That's okay. Who freaking cares? But you will avoid buying a hype run, and you will absolutely avoid being so fearful that you absolutely miss out and you run away from the stock whenever it's in the $6, $7, $8 range or so, as we saw so many people do last year who just wanted no part of Palantir at $6, $7, $8, whatever the case was. Even when they turned surprise profitability, I was shocked at how many people didn't want to own the stock at $7 whenever it fell back down. That's what valuation does for you, and that is one of the major keys of investing, along with number 3, which is you have to stick to your plan. Guys, like we just said, you're not going to time the bottom, so just stick to your plan. Understand that if you have it fair value, we'll just say at $15, and you want to start at or $16, whatever number you want to put there, $18, who freaking cares? You have to understand that if that's where you really have fair valuation at, and that's where you want to start adding shares at, you need to go ahead and execute that buy, because you're not going to time the bottom. You're right. You might very well buy your price target 16. You might very well buy at 16, and it might very well fall down to 14, might fall down to 12, might fall down to 11. That, to me, whenever you have a plan and you have everything set out and you stick to it, tells me I need to add more and more and more. What happens is people end up not sticking to their plan. Then it hits their target at $16, and they kind of go, "Ooh, but it's still trending down, and I really want to catch that bottom," which you can't do, but we all tell ourselves that we can. And there's tons of people out there in the media and on YouTube that tell you they can do it. So you start thinking you can do it too, and then you don't execute there, and then it does fall. Then you feel kind of smart, right? It goes down to 15, we'll say. You're like, "Hey, all right, but still, charts are still pointing down. This person says this person says that." You kind of wait. Maybe it does go down to 14. Maybe it does go down to 13. Who knows? But at some point in time, you're not going to execute the buy at the right time. It's going to start coming back up again. And you're going to be like, "Oh man, now it's up at 15. I had a chance to buy it at 13. And then you start kind of seeking out some bear articles or just some other people kind of saying, "Hey, it could fall lower." And you don't want to buy at 15 because you could have bought at 13 and you didn't. And so it ends up kind of preventing you from buying, and you end up riding the train up, and then all of a sudden it goes on another hype run. Now you're riding the FOMO train right back up, and now you get to where you're overpaying for it because you don't want to miss out on the next great thing because you knew Palantir was a great company. That's why sticking to that plan is so important. And if you don't know how to create a plan, do evaluation, set price targets, make sure you check out the Market Insiders private group where we teach you all that through 5 free courses. We got stock analyzer tools, You can slide into my DMs. We jump on our live Q&As. We have the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there. We have an entire group of folks there willing to help you and get you through any part of your investing journey. So make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership's right for you, as I may have left something up special for you guys that stick around for the video this long. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.